Hello and welcome to the Super Show. This week I am your host Jonesy, and today we've got a cool show for you. We will be covering the Switch Pro leaks, some new Turtles game news that's come out, and the Bethesda and Microsoft merger. But first,
yes,
I want to talk about where you can listen to us, because we are not just on YouTube, if that's where you're watching us right now. We are also across podcasting platforms like Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and loads of those other ones that I can never remember that Chris makes up week after week. So I'm not even going to attempt it. But I am joined by Jamie and Chris. So say hello, guys.
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I've already cracked up.
Yeah, this is crazy. That was the most disjointed intro I've ever heard you give, Jonesy.
I'm not used to it. I was just doing it. Like, some weeks I have to pick it up, and
we've got some Turtles news, and
do you know why?
Because they got me as well.
I was going to say Turtles in Time, like I was going to make a Turtles in Time thing, and I was like, it's not Turtles in Time. I can't remember what it's called, so it's not Turtles in Time. So
it's called Shredder's Revenge. For your
Shredder's Revenge, that's it. Anyway, before we speak about some new stuff, let me just also cover the fact that we are not just on YouTube and the podcasting platforms, because we are also internet radio superstars. We are on paisleyradio.com every Thursday at 10 p.m. And do you know what, guys? If you miss it on Thursday at 10 p.m., you can hear it again on Monday at 10 p.m. So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah. You can tune in if you want like an old school radio experience. We have some hot takes and some trash opinions, so thank you for joining us. And with all of that finally out of the way, the longest intro, the messiest intro we've ever done, let's quickly dip into our first news story, boys, because there is a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, and it is not Turtles in Time that I nearly said in the intro. It is in fact Shredder's Revenge, and it is coming soon. It's coming soon to Steam. I don't know if it's on any other platforms, but it's a four-player side-scrolling beat-em-up, which is why I said Turtles in Time, because it kind of looks a bit like that, a bit old school.
It does a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, spiritual successor.
Yeah, feelings of what you've seen.
Chris, I think you maybe go to you first, right? You're the person with, you two are the people with nostalgia for this game.
Yeah, I got big-time nostalgia for this. As Jonesy said, Turtles in Time. I think there was a pre-Turtles in Time beat 'em up as well with the Ninja Turtles, and I used to play that like so much with my friends, and yeah, it looks cool. It's being published by .emu, which they did the Streets of Rage, which was a very faithful kind of like spiritual successor. It's weird saying spiritual successor because it's still the same IP.
Right. I know what you mean.
Right, but it's like, it's going back to that old school way of doing things with the same IP. I'm looking forward to it.
You guys streamed Streets of Rage with Steph, right? One of you did, didn't you?
No, Jamie did.
I'm not sure we even streamed it. I think we just played it, you know?
Oh, okay.
Because I think it was Streets of Rage 4, wasn't it? It came to Game Pass day and date, and Steph and I just kind of sat down to play it and then accidentally finished it one evening, which is always a pleasant surprise in this day and age where we can't finish fucking anything. So Can I bore some old school viewers with my Turtles in Time anecdote that I tell every time we talk about Turtles and Turtles games in general, which is
Let's hear
it. Back in the day, the SNES game Turtles in Time, me and my brother played it in a shop like you used to, like you can do, bit of two-player side-scrolling action, and we got to a certain point and we would write down the passwords, because back in the day you didn't have cards, you had to had passwords to get to the next level. So we would make a note, we would scrawl it on a bit of paper, and every time my mum would be like, we're going shopping, we'd run to the game shop and put in the password and carry on from where we were, because we were saving our pocket money to buy the game. Eventually bought the game, took it home, plugged it in, put in the password for the last level we got to, and it was the last level in the game, and we had completed it inside of 25 minutes or so, or like half an hour, and then we're just like, oh.
So if you had just waited one more week, you would have saved yourselves all that money.
Yep. Wow. All that, probably like 30 quid, 35 quid, which in today's money, £1 billion.
700,
yeah. That's a lot of money,
yeah. I've got to be completely honest. I've got absolutely no love or nostalgia for this IP whatsoever. I don't think I've ever seen a single piece of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles related media in its entirety ever in my life, which makes not only the nostalgia for this game a little bit weird, but also the fact that you guys in the last 24 hours had a public argument about which member of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles you would be. All the stranger, I was watching that unfold on my phone and just thinking, what world am I living in? It's 2021.
Dude, so my rationale...
Yeah, I was going to say, make your arguments. Who would you be and why? You clearly disagree.
See, my rationale for this was that Chris is usually the host, right? He's the leader of SuperShow, I would say.
Yeah.
He's the most going to take that title. And Leonardo is the leader of the Turtles. So that made sense to me. I think I'm pretty obviously Donatello. I'm a bit of a nerd, a bit of a science nerd, and Donatello does machines. So you then come down to... and I'm the one who always has to buy stupid tech and stuff and, jump on things super early.
Yeah, how's that Vive working out for you?
I've not plugged it in for a while. So then you come down to the two remaining characters, and I defy anyone who's watched our live streams in the past, especially in the ATG days. That's hard to say. To not agree with me that Jamie is the angry one.
Oh, he's the angry one. Was the one you were trying to make me?
Yes, and Raph is the sort of slightly angry, brooding one, which is only part of Jamie's character.
But that is true because fucking hell, I've caught the Jonesy bug. The flip side of that is Jamie's goofiness and his love of pizza.
Yes.
To be fair, we all have a love of pizza, which is where kind of there's a great synergy and fit there. But yeah, that's why I think Michelangelo is.
So the goofy pizza guy and the angry guy are different, or they're two sides of the same person?
Different, buddy.
Different. Michelangelo is the goofy pizza guy. But then this is the thing. Steph is just not an angry guy in my experience at all. Yeah, so he can't be Raph. Yeah. And so I was like, but then it does make it tricky because he's not really Michelangelo. And if you were going to pick a Michelangelo, it probably would be Jamie.
But you see,
because of the goofy pizza side.
The issue with all of this, though, Jonesy, is you broke the cardinal rule. And that is you ignored shotgun. You can't ignore shotgun.
Oh, did Steph shotgun Leo, did he?
I shotgunned Raphael, and then Steph shotgunned Leonardo. So
then I have to ask
the rules,
Chris,
boys.
As an outsider to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, why did you want to be the angry one? Or why do you see yourself as the angry one? Because you're not an angry guy.
To be fair, he does have that side of him as well. If we're talking about two sides to coins, he can be grumpy, angry one.
Yeah, that's it. I think it's more grumpy than angry. Yes, I can be angry.
Yeah, more grumpy than angry.
True, my pod persona doesn't really let the anger come through. That's just seething under the surface constantly, especially when dealing with you two. But I think the grumpiness definitely comes through. But also, he's just cool and mysterious and a little bit of a, on the periphery. That's we got to resonate. We resonate is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
His synchronization, my synchronization were matching. If we vibrate at the same frequencies, we could merge.
Oh, okay.
Because you're both so cool and mysterious.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, do you know what? I don't think you can do polls anymore. I don't think that's a thing on YouTube. But what I would love the audience to do at this point is if you could, having watched a number of these shows, I'm sure you've watched many, go down to the comments below and let us know who you think should be which turtle. And if you can be bothered, put a little thing as to why you think someone should be that. And try and and if you're not sure where Steph should go, because he's not on the podcast very often, maybe go and check him out, TechnoOvo on Twitch.
Actually, sorry, fellas, I've just cracked it. Fuck, I can't believe it's taken me this long.
Okay.
Jamie is the amalgamation of Rocksteady and Bebop.
Oh, do you know what? You started to say that, and I thought Bebop or Rocksteady.
What are their personality traits?
So
you'd have to watch it, I think.
So how about that Patreon?
Why are you trying to distract me away from what's really going on here?
Yeah, if you want to see the inevitable fight after the show, head over to our Patreon because for as little as $2,
is this the point where I have to Google Bebop and Rocksteady? I roughly know what they are because I saw the trailer for the recent two movies. One's a pig, one's a rhino.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah.
But even the one with the belly is kind of jacked. Like this isn't that much of a
To be fair, I think if you watch the cartoon series back in the day, they're a little bit. It might be a bit more offensive to say.
Are they a bit dense? Is that what we're getting at here?
Yeah,
they are a little bit.
To be polite, yeah.
Do you know what? I have my dense moments. I'll accept it.
We all do, dude. Don't worry.
Indeed, yeah. So yeah, join our Patreon, and you can chat to us on Discord. You can also check out some more content that we do. There was an After Dark, now called Full Frontal, which went up last week. And there'll be another one going out probably next week. So yeah, check that out. There's also some Jesus, what do we call them? Some
Give us
I don't know
a
what
clue.
they're called. Some things where we talk about games that we've played. Spoiler casts.
Spoiler casts.
Oh, right,
Spoiler
yeah, those
casts.
things.
This is why I'm the worst for the hosting, because I can never remember words when I need to remember them.
I love
just
it.
jump out
I
of my
think
brain.
it's the building blocks of a really entertaining podcast.
Maybe, or the opposite. But yeah, there we go. So from that point, I think we should move on and we should mention some of our patrons who do indeed support us over at patreon.com/supershow. They keep the lights on and they keep us coming back week after week. And they are Aaron Cameron, Athletic Gravy, Shell Shock, Hacksaw Book Reed, Jesper Camdo Nielsen, Javela Cujo, Kingletix, I can't say that, Kingletix, Leo Merger, Lonnie Thompson, Magic Grits, Mindful Pig, Nathan Pears, Pastors Guild, Scary Omen, Starfall Kid, Zach Cream, and the big dogs. It's Manuel Guerrero, Peaswad, and the Dude Abides. Thank you to you guys and to all of our other Patreons who support us. And even people just talk to us on Discord and, give us also a shout out to Peaswad for playing some Rocket League with me this week. I think Shell Shock's going to jump on there and we're going to play some 3-player stuff in the coming week. So all of you guys are quality.
Thanks
so
for the invite.
Mate, the team's full. What can I say?
You could do quads in Rocket League technically. It's fucking hectic, but you can do it.
No. Look, sorry.
I don't think I've ever done it.
Jamie, your name's not on the list, so...
No, it's like, you're not on the list, you're not getting in. Fair enough.
Hold on a second. Did my camera just zoom in on its own?
Maybe.
I wasn't looking, actually. I don't think so. You're looking fine, whatever. So it's all good.
Strange. Look, because honestly, I didn't zoom in. Like, look, that's my zoom in. So I don't... I think I'm having what's known as brain aneurysms. So don't mind me. Carry on.
/ technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Should we have a comment of the week?
Oh,
Yeah.
I love comment of the week.
Right, so this one comes from Sam Honest.
Whoa, Jonesy. Where's the motherfucking jingle?
I haven't got. Go on then, Jamie. Give us a jingle for comment of the week.
Well, I'll do the jingle, but someone else has to give me a beat.
Chris, you do the beat. Jamie, you do the jingle.
Comment of the week.
That was terrible.
No, but you have to put post-processing effects on it. You have to move
shit.
So
Okay,
basically,
yeah.
here's what it actually would sound like, the finished product. It would just this big bass drop where it goes boo, and then my voice comes in like comment of the, and it's all like lots of reverb.
And in the background, you just hear prestige worldwide.
And then some of those air horns.
Bit of cowbell. Drop a cowbell in there.
Or
Sure, why not?
I just completely forget to do any of that. And
Are you editing this week?
People get the raw
I think
version.
I am, yeah.
Oh,
There we go.
The realization that nothing's going to happen.
You fuck.
well, actually, we call it editing. We don't really. As people who have watched and listened to the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this podcast will know, we don't edit. Like,
Hey,
we give it to you raw.
I might have a change of heart and edit something. I don't know.
Well, they're all.
All right, let's get on to the comment of the week.
What is the
though.
comment of the
they're-
week, Jonesy?
if
Why are you
they're
fucking
week
around so
for it.
much?
So
Are you a
this is-
host or like what is going on?
I'm trying. So this comes in from Sam Honest, who says, so what do you think about this Final Fantasy VII Remake's PS5 upgrade being free? And Final Fantasy VII is a PS Plus game this month. But please note the PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake available to PlayStation Plus members is not eligible for the PlayStation 5 digital version upgrade. To me, this seems like a dick move. So yeah, what are you guys thinking about that?
Oh, that's a controversial one, isn't it? It's one that I never had to put myself in Sam Honest's shoes yet up to this point, just because as someone who owned Final Fantasy VII Remake outright, I am eligible for the PlayStation 5 upgrade.
Yeah.
And I suppose this does go against convention somewhat in that you look at other PlayStation Plus titles like Bugsnax and Control that were sort of cross-generation, would you call it, I suppose? You got both versions of that game. Admittedly, you needed to own a PlayStation 5 to obviously play and acquire the PlayStation 5 version of it. But even PlayStation 4 owners or people who had an account could still add the PlayStation 5 versions of those games to their library. So I get it because they're releasing DLC and they're trying to create some kind of separation, and Square Enix still want there to be some degree of investment, I suppose. When you give away Final Fantasy VII Remake, in its PS4 version and its PS5 version, then you're essentially saying we're not going to make money on this product ever again, regardless of the work we're doing. And I kind of feel like I get where they're coming from in that respect. I know they're going against what other companies have done, but I feel like I know why they're doing it, and I'm not that mad.
Yeah, it gets strange when you sort of want to call someone out for not giving something away for free. Like, it's good when they do, and I like when they do, but at the same time, I find it difficult to.
But like the thing is, they are
don't.
still giving it away for free. Like, you can still play the PlayStation 4 version in backwards compatibility mode in your PlayStation 5. No one's not going to be able to play this video game. They're just saying, like, hey, we kind of want the super fancy stuff on this next-gen console to be for the people that own it outright.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just the PlayStation 5 version they're not giving away for free, which I'm like, yeah, I get that. Well, they kind of are, because they're giving it away for free to the owners of the original.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it difficult to get annoyed with them for that. Like,
Yeah, I cannot get annoyed with them for this. I think, like, all due respect to Sam Honest, I can get why people might get annoyed with this, but it also just kind of, there's an element of gamer entitlement here, right? Like, sorry, but there is. You're getting a game that's like a year old, one of the better games that was released last year. There's nothing to complain about. Okay, it doesn't upgrade to the PS5 digital version. Like, so what? It's still the same game, unless you want to get the DLC. In which case, hey, guess what? Just, if you really like it that much that you want to pay for the DLC, then do it. I think the only thing that maybe could have made this an easier pill to swallow for people like Sam Honest, and again, Sam Honest, like, you're entitled to your opinion on this, and I can see how people could get disappointed by this. But Jamie's right, like, the PS4 version will run on the PS5 in the backwards compatibility mode. But maybe what Square Enix could have done to soften this blow is just added a bit of an upgrade path, right?
Like,
because it's a PS Plus game. After this month, it's not going to be for free. So there's still going to be a chance for people to buy it outright, but maybe there could have been a slightly cheaper upgrade path that Sony or Square Enix could have implemented.
I'll tell you what they could have done, which might have worked, is you have the PS Plus version, but then if you buy the DLC, you get the PlayStation 5 upgrade version and the DLC. Well, I think that might have been a way to sort of go around it. I don't know if they've talked about that at all. If that's
I don't know. I don't know if the DLC is a separate thing. I think it's built into Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, isn't it? I don't know, actually.
But I thought you could buy Intergrade as an add-on to your PS5 version.
I thought the PS5 version was called
I don't know, man.
Intergrade.
Too complicated.
See, but this is the thing. It's kind of
because you get the PS5 upgrade for free, but Intergrade you have to pay for. As in, like, the addition, the DLC you have to pay for. I'm pretty sure that was when they did the announcement, that was how it came out, was that you have to pay. I can't remember how much it was. I tell you what, you guys talk about it more. I'll do an on the fly check.
Yeah, I don't actually remember. It's all so fuzzy to me now, because it was just like, oh, cool, new Final Fantasy stuff, and then they bombarded me with other stuff of Final Fantasy, like all the mobile games and shit. And I was like, oh, okay. Sure. And I don't know, maybe it did slip me by. But I was under the impression, I don't know what you think, Jamie, but I was under the impression that the PS5 version was Intergrade.
I see. I was under the impression that Intergrade was the name given to
the DLC.
Either the DLC or a new version of Final Fantasy VII that included the DLC. Like, I was under the impression that if I didn't buy the DLC but reinstalled Final Fantasy VII and went through the free upgrade to the PlayStation 5 version, that it wouldn't just become Intergrade. I don't know, but I might be wrong. But hey, like, the bottom line is it could be worse, right? Like, Square Enix practices, we could be talking about Final Fantasy VII 3.3 recurring dream drop distance. Like,
yeah, exactly. Or we could, it could be a control situation where
right, exactly.
They didn't have an upgrade path to the PS5. PS5 was a brand new kind of iteration of the game. Yeah. And then people were like up in arms about that. And then people bought it. And then, hey, guess what? It was fucking free on PlayStation Plus. So,
because the bottom line is, in theory, no one should actually be getting fucked over by this financially, right? Because the bottom line is, as you said, Chris, you're still just getting this video game for free.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Jonesy's brow was still kind of bunched up, which makes me wonder how much longer will we have to pretend we've got things to say about
he
this
didn't
game
realize
for?
that he'd left a couple of Pornhub tabs open, so he's
just
going through the backlog,
There's always many. Okay, so the way it kind of breaks down is Final Fantasy VII Intergrade is the PlayStation 5 version that includes the Yuffie DLC. So that is includes the game as a PS5 version and the Yuffie DLC.
So if you hold on. So if you have a PS4 version that you've paid for and you upgrade it to the PS5 version, you get the Yuffie chapter there as well.
No, because the PlayStation 5 upgrade is free, but then I think it was Geek Culture said that given the price of Intergrade, it's likely that the Yuffie DLC will be probably $10 or £10 or so to upgrade.
Right, okay.
So you still have to pay for the DLC. So if you currently have the PlayStation 4 Final Fantasy VII version, and you bought it like Jamie did, you will get a free PlayStation 5 upgrade.
Yeah.
You can then opt to get the Yuffie DLC. If you want to buy Intergrade, which is specifically a PlayStation 5 title, it comes with the DLC. So I think that's kind of how it breaks down.
Right. So then ideally what they should have is, if you have the PlayStation Plus version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that you should have some kind of an option to say, okay, I'll buy the Yuffie DLC and that will give me the PS5 digital version upgrade. Whatever it may be.
But what about people that don't want the DLC and just want the full game, but want it in PS5 mode?
That's a good question.
Then I guess you buy the PS4 version, because then that'll give you.
But then that's a weird thing of like, now we're getting into the weird minutiae of like, I wonder what that looks like on the PlayStation UI, which like it isn't great at the best of times when you're trying to buy a game you already own. Which I mean, to be fair, that is something that PlayStation more often than not lets you do in various ways, is accidentally buy games you already own. Because ever since the PS4, it's been kind of fucked. So whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's why they've maybe made it a new game and given it a new name, because you wouldn't then be able to buy Final Fantasy VII and then get the PS5 upgrade. You'd have to buy Intergrade, which is a separate game which comes with the PS5 version and the DLC. So I don't think you'd be able to buy.
Dude, can you imagine?
No, why not? Why not? What if someone went right now and said, I don't want the PlayStation Plus version, I just want to buy Final Fantasy? They wouldn't be buying Intergrade.
Oh, no, they wouldn't. But then they would own it, sure. But I thought you said if you had the PS Plus version, and then you wanted the PlayStation 5 upgrade.
Yeah, but let's say they don't want to spend they don't want they're not interested in Yuffie, and so they see that as $10 they don't need to spend. So they just want Final Fantasy when they already own Final Fantasy.
I guess they'd have to buy
you go on
Final
eBay.
Fantasy 7.
Yeah, you go on eBay.
Whatever it is at the moment, 30 quid or something.
Yeah, like maybe you do. Maybe you just go and buy a disc. Like,
yeah, actually, there we go, Sam Honest. Just go on eBay, buy a second-hand copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake, and there's your upgrade part.
I've got a copy you can have, Sam. Just swing around my gaff.
I'd
see.
Join the Patron, get in contact with Jamie, and see what you guys can work out.
I had a bit of a weird one with that with Hitman 2, because I played Hitman 1, finished it recently. You know, I've talked about it before. Before I play Hitman 3, I wanted to play the others. I bought Hitman 2 online, like as a disc version. I think it cost me 15 quid. In the PlayStation Store, it was still 50 quid. I was like, that's a no-brainer.
But that was a very strange situation where the publishing rights to all three Hitman games were owned by three different companies who didn't necessarily see eye to eye when it came to making logical price drops around the release of other games, which basically is code for Square Enix and Warner Brothers saying, I don't care if you're releasing Hitman 3, we're not making our game cheaper for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But anyway, why don't we move on? And I want to hear what you guys have been playing this past week. Who'd like to go first? Should we go? Let's go with Jamie. Let's go with first.
I wasn't sure which way you were going to go there. I'm very excited.
We should put bets on it.
I guess I should say thank you, first of all, Jonesy, for picking me to go first. I mean, I can't blame you. I mean, it's me, right? I've played 2 new games this week. And neither of them have left me particularly satisfied. But then again, neither have really pissed me off either. It's been such a... Do you know what I was saying to Chris yesterday? I think I've just been really hard to please this week in terms of video games. Like, nothing's really quite ticked that box, and I'm not sure why. But neither of the 2 games I played this week are actually that bad. First of all, I want to talk a bit about Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which...
something I've wanted to play actually that I haven't got around to.
Me too. And do you know why, Jonesy? Because Sackboy: A Big Adventure was this weird thing. It was almost the forgotten child of the PlayStation 5 launch, where here's this kind of mascot-based platforming game which came out alongside the release of the new console, the PlayStation 5, for anyone not counting. And it was like obviously aimed at sort of younger audiences. It was the family game. It was the thing that was there day one for anyone that A, was buying a PlayStation 5 for very young children, or B, was buying a PlayStation 5 and their wife wanted to make sure they got a game for very young children because they wanted it to be a family affair. Who doesn't? The issue that I think Sackboy had, amongst other stuff, is that one, it's a PS5 exclusive, which means it costs £70, which is like crazy, and $70, I think, US. And I don't even think it's on sale, like on the PlayStation Store or anything like that. I think it's still just wham bam full price. The other issue that Sackboy and Big Adventure had is that it's all good and well making a mascot-based platformer for the launch of your new console. Slightly problematic when there's an even better mascot-based platformer that comes free pre-installed on that same console. So I think a lot of human beings just said, actually, Astro's Playroom's a better game, and I've already got it because it comes with this fucking thing.
Bundled in, yeah.
Which, kind of left Sackboy lagging behind a little bit. But I suppose
I want more Astro. Do you know what you say that every then? I'm like, I'd like to play some more Astro's Playroom.
Well, if you want more Astro's Playroom and you'll settle for something that's a little bit worse than Astro's Playroom, might I introduce to you Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which I've got to clarify is actually not that bad. It's very simple, but there are some really nice touches, I'd say. Like visually, it's actually pretty impressive, I'd say. Like it doesn't attempt to do too much in terms of the scale and scope of the game, but as you can imagine, some of the finer details on, say, whether it's the material that Sackboy's made up from or various other bits and pieces in the environment, level design, all that stuff seemed fairly solid. It's got the presentation in terms of the cutscenes and the story. Story's pretty rudimentary, right, as you'd expect. But there are little touches like for any, well, you two both live in England, and anyone else based in England or the UK will recognise names like Dawn French or Richard E. Grant. Like they actually got some kind of cool voice actors to come in and fill out that voice cast in a way that was pretty effective. Soundtrack fucking bangs. Like there is some really cool stuff about it, but at the end of the day, it is also just like a sufficiently good platformer. You know?
Do you know what? I played some Unravel 2 with my wife, and I made me want to play Sackboy's Big Adventure because I was like, I want more of this. I want more platforming. I like that sort of thing, but I hadn't played it, so it's good to get your take on it. I suppose I want to say that all of the Little Big Planet games kind of lose their shine after a few hours of playing. So maybe it's kind of par for the course, but I'd still like to have a go. It's still interesting to look at.
But Little Big Planet had the added benefit of making stages and stuff, right?
Yes.
You could. It's something I never tried, I must admit.
I don't know. This game obviously doesn't have a version of that. It's a fairly cut and dry, almost like a traditional Mario style platform, in that you kind of have an overworld and go into level after level after level.
I was going to ask you, Jamie, actually.
Yeah.
Like, everything that I've seen about Sackboy just reminds me of like those Yoshi Yarn games where they're it's platforming, but it's fucking simple platforming, right?
It's simple.
Like it makes up for its simplicity. It makes up in charm, right?
Yes, it makes up for it, and there's lots of ways they try and layer on the charm. Like there's a surprisingly like deep and interesting sort of like cosmetic customization element to the game. You're unlocking loads of different costumes and emotes and stuff like that. There are like lots of social and connectivity stuff. There's levels that can be played in multiplayer. I don't think online multiplayer was there at launch, but I believe it is now. I haven't tried it. Some levels can only be played multiplayer, so they were like designed around co-op. Like little things where like you're like posing for photos at the end of every level, and like clearly things that are designed to be shared and interactive. Some of the level design does ramp up, and they do mix things up in terms of like it's not always just get to the end of the goal. There's always a few different things you're trying to do over the course of the level. There are some levels which mix things up, like, hey, find 5 keys to this door, or this is a level where you're going to be sliding down a slide the whole time. And I've got to give a special shout out to levels that use licensed tracks in their entirety, and it completely caught me off guard.
What was the song we're talking?
Well, I've had 2 experiences of it so far. The first one, I jump into a level. It's like the 6th level of the game. Okay, Sackboy, Big Adventure, normal platformer. I hear something in the background. I'm like, that's Uptown Funk. Like, why can I hear Uptown Funk? And sure, there's like the slide, and you know the Uptown Funk after the opening kind of like there's a couple of bars of just sort of like they're just like there's clicking and some guys making weird mouth noises.
Yeah.
And then there's a kind of like a riser, and then the song starts, and that times as when you land and the kind of level starts. And you're like, oh shit, okay, like platforms are moving to the beat and enemies are dancing to the song, and it's just a full on like it's not like fucking Chipmunkified or anything like that. It's just Uptown Funk.
Like why?
Right.
I don't know. And then
mad.
The second time I had it was even better because it was a Kool and the Gang's Jungle Boogie. So you're just playing Sackboy Big Adventure, and again, like I gotta stress, not Chipmunkified, like not like fucking some polka version for Sackboy. It's just they're just playing like licensed music in the background, and it does this kind of cool thing where lots of these levels are kind of broken up into segments.
Yeah.
So you have to make a choice to progress kind of from one area to the next. And they'll basically stop parts of the song at a point if you keep staying in an area. So eventually, like, the verse will just, like, keep looping the same instrumental until you actually move on. So they can make sure, like, every 4 to 5 times in every level, you can keep in time with the song. I don't know. Look it up for anyone that's interested. Look up maybe like the Jungle Boogie level.
You're not going to be looking it up on Twitch because that'd just be a fucking DMCA nightmare, right?
Yeah. That was cool, and I guess that's exemplary of like the kind of interesting ideas that are occasionally buried deep within Sackboy and do rear their heads every now and then. But beyond that, it's kind of just fine.
It's one of those games as well.
I should say, and also not worth $70, in my opinion.
I kind of feel like if you're sitting with someone alongside you and you're playing like a Little Big Planet game, Sackboy, I think you can have a much better time if you're playing it. I assume you were playing it on your own, in the majority. But you could have reined a housemate in, couldn't you?
Yeah, call in a prostitute to play some games with you.
How about just get someone from like I don't know, next door, downstairs, whatever. But
that was the most underhanded thing you've ever said, Alex Jones.
How? I don't know. He may well have
basically said that Jamie is forever alone.
No, I know that he lives with other people. That's what I'm saying. I don't know how he chose.
Does he?
Yes, he does. He's talked about him before.
Jones is right. I do live with other people. We just don't play video games together.
That was funny,
okay.
Though.
Fair enough.
That's classic.
But I kind of feel like some of those games struggle when you try and play it as a solo experience because that's not like half the fun of Little Big Planet. I think the last one I played was Little Big Planet 2. Half the fun of that was just backhanded your friend in the face and dragging him around the level. But
here's the thing: Sackboy isn't a co-op game. It just has co-op levels strung through it.
Oh, so you can't play every level.
My understanding is that it's a predominantly single-player game with co-op or multiplayer levels and stages.
Oh, my mistake. Sorry, I thought you could play it kind of.
I might be mistaken, but I don't know.
Okay,
that could just be like a fact that I materialized in my own head to make myself feel better about my loneliness.
You thought, should I go and knock on the door and get someone to play? No, you can only play this game single player.
I did the thing where you just you turn on the second controller, say you're doing 2-player, but really you're just playing the level twice, one after the other.
So what was the second game that you've been playing this week, Jamie?
Yeah, I'll touch on it very quickly because I don't actually have that much to say, but Dirt 5 came to Game Pass this past week for Xbox and PC. And that was, for anyone wondering, that was basically like a launch game for next-gen consoles. It came out in like November, so surprised to see the game come to Game Pass that quickly. And that's a series I've always liked because I was a big Dirt 2 fan back in the day, but I haven't played for a long, long time, so I thought, fuck it, I'll just jump in. And again, to repeat what I said earlier, well, it's Dirt. I just can't find the enthusiasm for it. They've tried to do this weird thing in the career mode where they're like, do you know what it feels like? It felt like they made a racing career mode and they were like, shit, this is just a bunch of events right after one another. What should we do to make this more interesting? And they're like, what if we added the story after the fact by giving voiceover like performances to the other racers that you might meet in the career mode and have them seem like their characters and have a fake podcast that happens in the game that they can go on. What? Basically, Dirt 5 is a game where the career mode is a series of events and they're all kind of like Dirt style events. Again, Dirt, not Dirt Rally, so much more arcadey.
Yeah.
Wherein there are two other racers portrayed by Nolan North and Troy Baker. I'm not joking.
Wow, of course.
Yeah, of course.
That pop up between events, either giving you voiceover where they're like addressing you directly and what I presume are voicemails or maybe voice notes. I don't fucking know. But there's also a fictional
weird.
in-universe podcast hosted by these two guys who explain all the events when you do them for the first time. And then I think at various points, the characters or the racers played by Nolan North and Troy Baker go on the podcast to talk about their rivalry. But then you are also a racer as well, so I don't know if you factor into that rivalry yourself at some point.
Sounds so weird, dude.
But I stand by what I said. It felt like they realized they'd made a series of racing events, and they're like, what can we do with a VO booth to call this a story mode? Troy Baker, Nolan North, let's go. Write the check, baby.
I love that they thought that if they hired Troy Baker and Nolan North, then they'd win. They were like, we can do it. We just need Troy Baker and Nolan North, and it'll work.
In fact, the most fascinating thing about them hiring the two of those guys is I think it's the last thing they would have worked on together before they fell out. So Dirt 5 might be the last game to ever have Troy Baker and Nolan North working together in any real capacity.
But hey, if you want to experience some real sort of bad chemistry between two rivals in a game, maybe that's the one you want to go for. Maybe that's what ended the relationship.
Maybe that's the thing that made them fall out. Troy Baker went all method acting on his Dirt 5 role and ended up hating Nolan North. I don't know. It's strange, and I kind of weirdly admire them for doing it. And I think the whole fictional in-universe podcast idea is actually kind of cool in a roundabout way. I just don't know how much time people have to listen to fake podcasts between races.
Yeah, how long are the podcasts?
They're like 2 to 3 minutes so far.
That's annoying though, isn't it, to sit and listen to just people yapping?
It is weird. And then the thing is,
what are you talking about?
In a game, everyone who was about to click on the X and cancel the SuperShow right now, do not pull your finger away.
Wow. Okay.
Don't you turn us off?
If we lose
in the game,
inordinate amount of subs because of that, Jonesy, jeez,
deserved. It was a matter of time. I was just going to say though, it is strange when the thing you're listening to ends, and no matter how much you're enjoying, like the character arcs or the podcast or the hosts and so on and so forth, you still go back to a menu and just choose the next event to do. And that's why I think I'm finding it quite flat. It's not like Forza where you're driving from event to event and things are popping off and there's a really kind of lush environment to explore. Forza Horizon, I should say, not Forza Motorsport.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest, if you were going to get Game Pass to play a racing game, I'd say Forza Horizon over Dirt 5 to be perfectly honest.
I think it's like...
It's not a bad game, but...
You just... I think with games like this, they just need to know what they are, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with not having a career mode and not driving from place to place. But then again, that doesn't necessarily belong in an arcadey style thing.
Yeah. It's a strange one. For that reason, it's just also got a very strange identity. I always very fondly remember Dirt 2 because that felt like the synergy between the soundtrack and the presentation and just the feel of that game all came together in a way that this one doesn't. It tries to do some Forza Horizon style kind of like festival-y elements, but the soundtrack doesn't really hit. It's gone for more of a sort of a punk rocky kind of thing from what I can sense so far. I don't know.
Weird.
It's a mismatch of things and it's good, but it's like Sackboy. Fundamentally, it's a good racing game. Like the driving model's fun. It's very arcadey enough that you can nail how the drift feels after 1 or 2 laps of your very first race, and you're throwing your back end round corners like no one's business. It's a good laugh, but there's just not enough for me to want to do more than maybe like the 10 events that I've already done there. Like I'm struggling to find reasons to keep going.
Yeah.
I love it when they have really bad stories in racing games because they're so badly done, even when they're done, as part of the production process of the game. So the idea of an add-on after the game does make me laugh.
To be fair, that was me speculating. That could have been the plan from the very beginning. They could have.
Doesn't that make it worse? If that's
I think that makes it worse.
If they were like, I've got a great idea, we're just going to use VO and we're going to use these podcasts in between each race. Yeah.
I was going to say, though, that don't slag off racing games or stories in general, because the original Need for Speed Most Wanted, which I think is called Need for Speed Blacklist in some areas, had an amazing story, and the main bad guy was called, I'm looking it up because I'd forgotten, but I know it was good.
Here we go.
I'm not going to be able to find it now.
Brace yourselves.
There was a guy in that game called Razor Callahan. That's good enough. Shout out to Need for Speed Most Wanted 2005 edition.
Wow. Some of the like Need for Speed and the Street Racer games, the stories in those are so bad because they have to like I want to say, was it Need for Speed like Is it Heat?
What?
One of the most recent
what's
ones?
the one
Oh
before
yeah, with
Heat?
the police.
With the police, but you have to,
Oh,
in
yeah,
order
well,
to
that
make
too, yeah.
you a justifiable street racer, which is incredibly dangerous and can end in like death and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So they have to make the police exponentially worse than you as a character to make you the morally, like the good person in that whole situation. So they make the police in that game like worse than the Gestapo in World War II. Like they are so insanely evil. Like I want to say at one point, they're going to just straight up, they're talking about how they're going to murder you. And like hide it.
Yeah, at the start of that game, they fucking did they like throw a dude off a bridge or something, and
That's it. Yeah, they think
Yeah.
he's in the bag, but he's not, or something. And then they chuck the bag. They have to make those police so evil, and it's ridiculous. Like,
Sounds
that's
pretty
why
woke,
that's why I
if
like
you
the
ask
Need
me.
for Speed Underground, because it was just like, yeah, just go race. You liked the Fast and the Furious. It's that, but in a
Yeah.
game.
they had some cool sort of weird. Was it that one that had the cutscenes where it was sort of like very MTV, very crazy? It was just some like woman telling you what the next race you were
Yes,
going
yeah,
to do.
yeah.
is.
And they had like models doing the who's the fucking
Holly Valance.
Could have been. But that worked. That was fine. Like that does seem a little bit, cringy at sometimes, but it works in that kind of game. You don't need loads of exposition about
Sure.
why you're racing.
Do you remember when they rebooted Need for Speed as just Need for Speed, and the story was told in live action cutscenes, like FMV cutscenes from a first person perspective, where you're like going around giving people fist bumps, and obviously because they're trying to get this kind of seedy undergroundy feel, like there were lots of like dodgy characters and meeting in bars and stuff like that, but they can't accidentally promote drink driving, so alcohol is replaced with Monster Energy in every single scenario. So you go to these like dingy bars and there's like the bikers playing pool, and there's the angry bartender looking at you. You walk up to the table of all your buddies and like everyone's like cheersing Monster Energy. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
That's great.
Oh man,
I love
great.
that.
That's brilliant. Oh well, let's. Do you know what I was going to say, Chris? What have you been playing this week? But I actually know one of the things you played this week because I watched you stream some of it on Twitch at Hot Panic.
Yes,
which is,
you did.
and that was tight-
Twitch.tv/Hot Panic.
Indeed, and that was Titanfall 2.
Yes,
Yes.
it was Titanfall 2. Yeah.
I watched some.
Same.
Still going through that game. Obviously not my first rodeo with Titanfall 2. I fucking love
Oh,
that game, boys.
that's actually a very good pun if you think about it, because rodeoing is the official term for like riding on the
the
back
mechs.
of a Titan. So if you think about it, Chris is who's the smart Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle? Who's the most intelligent one?
Donatello.
Donatello.
So Chris is Donatello. I hate to break it to you.
Yeah, sorry,
There you
Jonesy. I'm taking the
There you
crown. But yeah, that game, as old as it is, and I've said it last week, but it still plays like shockingly well. It's not that old of a game, but it's funny. Like you play games like COD and Warzone, whatever, where they've got like decent movement systems, etc., and you go back to a game like Titanfall, or you just boot up Apex, and you realize just how far the goalposts have moved in terms of like FPS movement, and that people still can't catch up. It's mad. It's mad to me. But yeah, great game, great story. I think probably there's about one more stream left and I'll finish the game. I'm enjoying it. Maybe I'll dip my toes into some of that multiplayer action. But that's not the main game that I've been playing recently, because I've been tempted, fellas. The Twitter echo chamber has got me all feeling all sorts of things. And this week it was Loop Hero, which people can't stop seem to be gushing about. And I was like, okay, cool. I could do some Loop Hero. It's a very fucking interesting game. So it's like a roguelike where you have a character that you cannot control, and it goes around a set path, and it keeps on going until it dies, basically. But every time it kills something in its way, let's say, it drops certain items or quote unquote cards. I know Jones is going to feel funny about the word cards, but for lack of a better term, just a thing, right? And that thing could be like, oh, you can now place a cemetery next to where the path is, and that'll spawn more creatures. And the more creatures you kill, the more additional cards you get. Some of them spawn more creatures, some of them increase your stats, some of them just give you items. Because it's got like a little paper doll thing like Diablo, where you go, okay, here's your shield, here's your armor, blah, 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 your ring. etc. And the way I described this to Jamie the other night on one of our WhatsApp chats is it's like an idle clicker, but that's not idle, because you're constantly doing things, but you are never in control of the main thing, which is this character going around this set path that goes in a loop around and around. So each like iteration of the loop kind of gets more and more complex, right? It's
right, yeah. That's not what I thought that game was at all. I thought it was like a turn-based roguelike. Okay.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very unique. It's not that expensive. It's worth kind of taking up. And I think Steam has it like 14% off at the moment or whatever it is. Not madness, but I think I paid something like £10 for it. It's very cool. Very awesome story. Very awesome music. Gameplay is kind of very addictive. I just wanted to dip my toes into it. I ended up playing it for about like 2.5 hours. And really looking forward to playing more. But the one caveat I've got to say is, in playing those 2.5 hours, I don't know how much more there is to the formula. You'd imagine that there'd be a lot more, right? But I get the sense that I've seen majority of what I can see.
What are you working towards? Like,
so
what is?
Yeah. So okay. So the story is that like the world has been destroyed by this like lich, okay, but you somehow have survived, and your memories are slowly coming back. So when it starts off, you're like, oh, where am I? And you're on the path. And as you kill your first creature, it's like, oh shit, I remember there was a forest nearby, and one of the items you get is a forest that you put down, and the forest gives you a passive ability that after each day cycle you regen some health. Right. So, and it's like, oh, and that's how it goes. And the idea is that you are rebuilding the idea of this world and the idea of its inhabitants. And then you meet up with other people because they've also kind of started to wake up from this like existence. And your world is now stuck in a loop going towards the oblivion that happened. And you have to stop this lich from doing it. It's interesting. It's very, very kind of like, it's funny playing that game. I was like, you could take this kind of concept and adapt it in like so many different ways. It could be really cool, but I have a sneaking suspicion I've seen a lot of what that game has to offer within the first 2 hours. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong, and I'll report next week as to if I am or not. No, it's cool. It's really cool.
Okay, that
and I
sounds
guess
encouraging.
Yeah, I guess it's a nice game as well if you just want to play something that you can log in, play for 20 minutes, and then log out. It's definitely that kind of a game as well. Although, you're getting into a new game. That's why I was like, okay, let me just kind of get sucked in here. You get sucked off by the game.
I guess what I'm wondering, though, is like with other sort of like recent popular roguelikes over the last couple of years, like Dead Cells is something we both played a lot of.
Yeah.
The amount of Dead Cells you wanted to play wasn't necessarily dependent on whether or not you were seeing new stuff per se. Do you think Loop Hero is something that necessitates you having more to see, so to speak? Or do you think you get to a point where you're like, oh, I was right, I have actually seen everything within 3 hours, but because the fundamentals are so fun, I'll keep going?
I think it's maybe a balance. I think that's probably what they're striving for, because there is a lot of stuff that you can... So after your like little tutorial playthrough, there is a lot of stuff that it says, hey, this is locked, and you can unlock this. So basically what happens is, you get to a little area outside of the battle where it's like a settlement, and you can help build up that settlement. But in order to get that settlement built up, you need resources, which means you need to go into battle to get those resources. So there's, like, I've only unlocked 3 buildings out of, say, 15. And the buildings allow you to do different things, and you can upgrade the buildings, which increase things, blah, blah, blah. Then there's the card element side of it, where the more you play, you unlock new cards, and you've got a quote-unquote deck. So you could swap out a cemetery for, say, a vampire's castle, and they do different things for you. And then as you're playing them around, and then they get dropped by the creatures that you kill, you can place them on the map, blah, blah, blah. It's very interesting. There's a lot of kind of like progression built into the game. I can see that much, sure. But like, yeah. I get what you're saying with the Dead Cells things. Like, you play one game of Dead Cells, you understand the mechanics, and there's not much more to the mechanics of the game beyond that playthrough. But you keep on going back because you want to see the variance, this, that, the other. Maybe I haven't played enough to kind of...
You also want to go further, right? That's the main thing about like something like Dead Cells, is you want to go
Oh, yeah.
You get to a point where you die, and then you like the thing is, I've got to get past that point. Like I've got to go further.
Yeah.
I have to get more.
So it does an interesting thing, right? Where you're in a battlefield for as long as you want, and you can infinitely loop this battlefield. Okay, well, not really infinitely, because there's another timer that fills up after each loop, and it's like very slow and incremental. But what that does is when it hits the end of that timer, it summons the Lich to your map, and you can't kill him because he's like way fucking overpowered. And that's where the roguelike kind of thing comes in, because you will die, but then you'll keep your cards and your experience, etc. And that's kind of where it kind of builds up to, is say like an end game. What you want to do is you want to kill this Lich. And I guess you go to different battlefields, and then the Lich will come to different battlefields, etc. But yeah, I'm hoping it's deeper, because it does seem quite deep at the moment. Okay. Yeah, I can't recommend it enough. It's really cool. Like,
sounds
what people are saying about it is justified.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a long year, but it sounds like an early contender for Loop Game of the Year. I mean, it's going to have some stiff competition in a couple of months, but
yeah, well,
it's a good start.
I've heard that Hideo Kojima's Death Loop, get it? Because Death Stranding and Death Loop, but then it's also the Arcane game, and never mind.
Yeah, I know what you did. I just don't get why it's funny.
I'm tired, fellas. Right, and the reason why I'm tired, because the last thing that I want to talk about, which is not gaming related, is for some sad act reason, I've started watching the OC again. Because I used to watch it when I was younger.
Is that what you're trying to do? You're trying to recapture your youth?
That's why the hair's down.
Is it on Netflix? Is it? Or where are you watching?
No, it's on all 4.
Oh, is it all 4?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, all seasons. So I started watching. I don't know. Like, I really liked it when I was growing up. I say growing up, I was like fucking 19 when it started. Or whatever. But yeah, for some reason, just being a bit introspective, and that show came out in a particular time of my life that I guess I'm just kind of like reflecting on at the moment. So it makes sense, and I'm enjoying it. It's cool. It's got a banging soundtrack, especially that theme tune, man. California.
Oh, is that what that's from?
Yeah. I remember everyone watching it, like, and I never got into it, but it was everywhere, like when it was on, and everyone was talking about it at the time. But it's something I could never get into.
It was cool, dude. When it was the time that it was like actually airing, maybe in the middle of the second season, I had realized something about myself. Is that when I was much younger, all my cousins would watch like fucking, what was it, Beverly Hills 90210.
Right.
And shit like that. And I was like, and what was the other one? Melrose Place or whatever. And I used to fucking hate them, like, with such a passion. And I never understood why my older cousins would like tune in every single week, religiously follow these storylines. I was like, this is the dullest shit I've ever seen. And then halfway through the OC season 2, I was like, I am my cousins. I've figured it out now. I get it. Okay, cool. Yeah.
For me, the only thing I did with that was like that sort of like kiddie drama stuff was like Heartbreak High.
Heartbreak High?
And Neighbours. Of course, Neighbours is on like twice a day religiously. Yeah. I don't know if it still is.
I can tell you it is, because you know what? My wife is Neighbours and Home and Away. She is mental about them. Yeah, she
those two.
Well, because it's escapism, right? And she loves Australia, and they're always showing off like the panoramas of the beach and shit. So it's like, yeah, cool.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. They've been... Sorry, mate, go on.
I was going to say, how old were you guys during these phases? Just so I can try and place...
Which phases?
Like,
Chris, your OC phase, and Jonesy, your whatever it was, Heartbreak.
Yeah, so I reckon I was like 19, because it was like early 2000s when the OC came out, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like 10 or 11, I guess.
Wait, so your phases for these weird, like, shows were a decade apart from each other?
No, but the shows were directed at different audiences, though.
Yeah, one with like the ones they were much more kiddie. Like Neighbours Neighbours isn't kiddie, but in the sense of it used to play at the end of like kids shows on British television. So you'd come home and it would play right for the people who've just come home from school.
Yeah,
I don't know why, but then they'd play it again. I guess in the evening.
I guess.
Whereas the OC, Jamie, is more like, you got high school students who are alcoholics and taking drugs and shit and beating the shit out of each other and fucking each other. That's why I watch it, because
it sounds more interesting than the kiddie versions, I guess. A little bit of drama in there.
Yeah, but Jonesy's right. It's cut from the same cloth. You know, it's just a more mature thing of the same fucking storylines, to be honest.
And then you progress on to like, I don't know, what,
Pornhub.
EastEnders? Pornhub.
Yeah.
Let's say EastEnders and Coronation Street and Emmerdale.
Now,
That's
see, again, that's what you did. I was going to say Hollyoaks.
I never watched any of those. That's what I'm saying, but people do. I think I
Yeah.
stopped watching them after I stopped those sort of ones. I just didn't watch soaps anymore. That wasn't really my thing. My mum used to watch EastEnders though. But that aside,
into soaps, yeah.
we're going to have to move on because we've talked about soap operas for far too long.
But what have you been playing, Jonesy?
Do you know what? I haven't been playing much this week. I think I touched on it earlier. The only thing I've really been playing is a bit of Rocket League, which I got back into. I think I said last week, actually.
Yeah, you did,
was because Robin from Just Interesting, he streamed a bit and it made me want to play more Rocket League. And that game is free. I thought, why not hop in and play a bit? But I've been playing some with, some of the guys from our Discord. So that's been pretty cool. It's a weird game to try and get back into in a sense. Like because it's one of those things where it's really easy to get back into. And Rocket League is my go-to for a really successful online multiplayer game because it's so simple.
Yeah.
But some of the people, it's like any other game like that, some of the people you come up against are so goddamn good because you can tell they never stopped playing it. And they have just got too good at that game. I think I was playing with Peaswad from one of our patrons. And we played a team who, I swear to God, they didn't drop the ball once. They would just hit it to each other, like pass it, and then go into the air and pass it to each other in the air, but they weren't scoring goals. They were just passing it around the field.
They're just doing the Brazilian football team style. Yeah?
Yes, exactly. Brazilian
football. A little bit of tiki-taka.
And then they would only shoot when they I think it ended up being like maybe 4-0 or something, but it could have been 50 if they wanted.
Yeah, but you see that, but that's bullshit though, Jonesy, because that's a fucking failure on the matchmaking, right?
Oh, for sure. Like I think these guys were specifically going around just playing around with people that were shit compared to them, which I suppose is fair enough. But the level of skill was impressive. Like I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they were streamers and they were.
Listen, that Rocket League is I just can't wrap my head around how to play that game because I don't know. You're right. The amount of skill that Rocket League can open up to people that practice it religiously is absolutely insane. The way they fucking do shit. Like you say, oh, they were just passing the ball and the ball never dropped the ground. Like, I know that is not an exaggeration. That's the shit that you could do in Rocket League. But it's mental.
To be fair, we managed to get the ball off them maybe 5 or 6 times in the entire game. But when I say get it off them, it was like we hit it away from them and they recovered it almost straight away. And it was truly impressive. So fair play to them. One of the things that I found odd about Rocket League and how it's changed is that they've switched out I think it change developers or publishers or something, but they changed the system about how they do the.
Epic bought them.
Oh, right. Okay. So
but it's still the same devs though.
Yeah,
under
the exact same
Epic
devs.
now. Yeah,
but they've changed how they implement their drops and their decals and the cars that you can buy and the customization options. So they changed it so that you can't get things in quite the same way. So it's now a battle pass or rocket pass, I think they call it. And as you play along, you get XP and you unlock crates and you can get random drops. But it kind of seems a bit less accessible with how you can get things in the game. And there are some of those, skins and things that it seems like a real pain in the ass to get, and you'd have to dump quite a bit of money into that game to get some decent stuff, which is weird. Yeah. It's fine, but it's a little odd. It makes you kind of go, I want the DeLorean that they did back in whatever, and you're like, yeah, you can't get that anymore.
Oh,
yeah, impossible.
I mean, a lot of that licensed stuff you had to pay for from as soon as it launched, right?
Yeah, but I think what Jonesy's saying is if it was tied to a battle pass, it would be at the end of a battle pass, and in order for you to do that, you actually would have had to have played religiously for a month or so, or sunk so much money, like 10 times the amount that you would have bought if it was just in the store like it used to be, where it's like, here's a DeLorean skin, it costs X amount, and you can buy it and you own it, and that's it.
I think that for me is the thing is I think, Jamie, back in the day, you probably could have bought those sorts of skins for money, but now it seems like it's a lot more expensive, or you've got to pay a load of money to get through the battle pass and stuff. I mean, I'd have to look into the actual numbers, but I was surprised by how much it costs to get through some of those tiers.
I would
and things
say
and
though,
how much
it doesn't cost. But the battle passes you're not meant to spend if you're spending the money to get through the tiers and you're not playing the game enough.
Yeah.
Sure, but in some instances, if you're not playing the game enough and you say I want X, you wouldn't like Chris is saying you can't just buy the skin.
You got to play the game more.
Yeah, but some people won't be able to, right? If you're a person who hasn't got the time,
then you don't get the reward.
I've played a lot of that game actually, so I'm going through it quite quickly. But I can see that there would be people who won't get particularly far, especially if you're not scoring goals, if you're not getting assists.
Then don't buy it.
But that's kind of mean for people that aren't very good at it. Like, I don't know. I'd feel a bit. If someone wasn't very good, didn't get any points, didn't get through the levels, I'd feel a little bit bad for him.
It's like I'm holding an event. It's a race. It's a 500-meter race, but it's actually got a time limit. And if you don't finish the race in time, then you just have to stop running wherever you are. And someone comes to me and says, "Sorry, I paid to enter the 500-meter race, and by the time the time was up, I'd already run 100 meters." And I'm like, well, then why did you enter to run the 500-meter race? You fucking
know what
idiot.
I love about Jamie's kind of analogies is on the surface you're like, oh fuck, he's got a point, but then you realize that he's comparing a real fucking race to a game where you were saying that some casual just wants to play for like fucking 10 minutes each week or whatever, and he just wants a fucking DeLorean skin. It's like, yes, but no.
Yeah, but then
they're not allowed. No, Chris, they're not allowed. They shouldn't play the game.
Yeah, in fact,
they shouldn't be in the race if they're not prepared to be good at the game.
And actually, if you buy the battle pass and you don't finish it to completion, then the FBI are going to come through and bend you over and spank your cheeks.
No, I'm sorry. Like, you go and look in like the subreddits or the forums for long-running games like your World of Warcrafts and your Destinies and stuff like that. Then one of the number one things a lot of people complain about, the longer stretch of times these ongoing games exist for, is that they want things to be rewards. They want the cars they go to. Use Rocket League as an example, the cars they're going into matches with, the skins, the decals, the jet streams, the goal. They want the thing to be like, oh shit, that guy completed the Season 3 Battle Pass. If you could just say like, oh, I'm playing Rocket League for the first time in 5 years, but I've got an unlimited bank account so I can buy whatever I want and make it look like I completed this Battle Pass or that Battle Pass or blah, blah, blah.
You can do that. You can buy the battle pass. No,
but not old shit.
No, but you can't. But if you'd have been, if like Chris said, and if I was saying someone barely plays the game,
if someone comes around now and says I want to buy the entire battle pass and not play the game, then yeah, sure, let them do it. But the idea that someone like doesn't have enough time to finish the entire battle pass and says, well, I should be allowed to have whatever I want from the stuff I didn't accomplish, bullshit. Accomplish it.
But then what about those people that are just buying
guess what? Then you're rewarding the people that did.
He's just saying that it's a bit of a shame. He's not like... Sorry, I'm on your side here,
Jonesy. Jonesy's right. It's a shame that people didn't get the prizes they didn't win. It's a shame it's a shame that everyone who goes to the carnival didn't walk home with the big teddy bear that they didn't win.
But they didn't. For the example one that I used, the DeLorean, like you didn't win that anyway. Like you bought that. That was DLC.
So that's why it's an irrelevant example.
No, it's not irrelevant. I'm saying when you switch, especially from like one system to another, and you have a whole load of stuff which people say, oh, I would have liked that, and then to make it not accessible is one thing. I can get why they do that. Things get discontinued, but then to have a battle pass system which actually seems kind of pricey if you weren't someone who had the time. Or you weren't, of a skill level to get through the battle pass. I don't know. I found it odd that because they also have a time limited shop where you have a real brief window in order to buy cars and skins and things. So you would never know what's coming up next, but it's going to be a few days. So by the time you've got through the battle pass, you don't know what's going to be in the shop. Like something like Warzone to me makes more sense when they have a lot more available to buy. If you want to buy it, you can buy this and that and skins and whatever. And you can do the battle pass. Rocket League have kind of gone for the random drop battle pass thing, some decals, do the rocket pass, but the shop to me just seems a bit messy and a bit like you can either spend 20 quid and get.
You've got to get that dough somehow, though, Jonesy. And I will say, in defense of battle passes, I think any online game just should have a battle pass because. While I do get you, and I'm fully on your side that it's a shame, and maybe it would be nice to have options either way. From my Dota experience, whenever there's a battle pass, I have a much better time than whenever there isn't a battle pass. So,
I like a battle pass. Yeah. I like a battle pass. I do like it.
And for what it's worth, I will say I agree with Jonesy that like it would be nice for whenever there are like prestige items, or especially items in the case of Rocket League, are attached to other licenses and have an appeal beyond just the nature of like the car or the skin or whatever it is, because it's the DeLorean or it's Ghostbusters or whatever the fuck it is. That giving someone the option to just buy it if they want it is nice. But I also just think that like looking at a battle pass and saying, oh god, I really want the thing that's at the end of the battle pass, that's unfair. That's just the nature of battle passes.
I didn't mean it was unfair. I just meant it seemed it seemed like very price gatey compared to what I'm used to with battle passes.
Everyone wants the thing that's at the end of the battle pass. That's why battle passes.
That's why
the battle passes sell you on the fact that you're lured in by your desire to obtain items that you're never going to play the game long enough to actually get.
Sure.
And then they do it, and they get you to do it every 3 months, and that's why, for as much as battle passes are cool and they feel like a reward, there's a reason every game has a battle pass now. Like especially free to play. Yeah, exactly.
They make money.
Like game companies don't do things that don't make them money. And if every single free to play game in the world right now, from like Apex to Fortnite to Warzone and to even Dota, has some equivalent to a battle pass, it's because it makes them fucking millions of dollars of idiots like us.
But I think to your point, and what you said before about like other games that do it better, and then you look at people that don't do it particularly well. I think the thing that struck me about Rocket League is, so take Apex for example, and what you've just said there. If you saw a skin in Apex that you liked, it was legendary level, you can pretty much just go and buy it if you wanted to. You could pick the skin, go and buy it, and by buying in-game currency, get the character, get the skin, go and do it.
No, Rocket League, Apex doesn't work that way.
I thought you could if you go into
Apex, no, because you have to craft the stuff, and you need the certain crafting materials.
As long as since I've played Apex, I thought though if you go into that list of skins, you can go and buy.
I swear you're crafting them, not buying them.
But you can you buy the stuff you need to craft them?
I don't know if you can. I think the only things you can buy, the things you can buy directly with money are the legends themselves, the loot boxes, the battle pass, and what's ever in a rotating store, whatever featured in a rotating store. I want to say the way you guarantee yourself access to the skin you want is by spending crafting materials that are acquired by leveling up.
Right.
So every time you level up, you get, or sometimes either every time you level up, and then at a certain point, every other time you level up, you get in a certain amount of a crafting material. If you accrue a certain amount of that, then you can craft like a legendary that you want. I don't think you can buy them outright unless they're in the store.
Okay. Oh no, fair enough then. So it's not as I thought. Well, whatever then. I like the idea that you can go and say, oh, I like this, and then get it, as opposed to some point in the next couple of years, that thing might be available on the Battle Pass, or something I like might be available.
Sorry, you're missing a trick here, bro. All you have to do is find them, like get in touch on WhatsApp with someone who works at the company and mail them $1,000, and they'll get you all the cards you want. Simple as that.
But hey, look, we need to move on.
Shout out to the homies at EA.
We need to move on because we've got a couple of news topics to talk about.
Hell yeah, we do.
So, first up, guys, Bethesda and Microsoft's merger has finally been approved. I want to say it was last year that we talked about this when they actually came out with it.
I think it was, was it the states had approved it and it was just waiting for like EU approval or something like that?
Because it was with regard to what do you call it? Was it monopoly stuff that they were just checking that they wouldn't give them some sort of monopoly, or was it? I wasn't sure why the EU
I believe I read a statement this past week that implied that like they had checked that stuff and it was all clear that it wasn't going to endanger the market or whatever.
So they have confirmed that the previously announced timed exclusives will be honoured. Back catalogue of Bethesda's games is going to go on Game Pass, possibly this Friday. The document is telling me, which is pretty cool.
There've been a bunch of listings. So Evil Within, I believe, Skyrim Special Edition or Ultimate Edition, and Fallout 4. Like whatever the special.
I think it was Game of the Year edition.
Yeah, they're all touted to drop probably on the day that this podcast goes out, which is on the 12th.
Which is some pretty cool games for Game Pass to get hold of. I like Bethesda have got a very strong back catalogue to kind of say, did you ever play this? Do you want to play it again?
Yeah, dude.
I think that's quality.
And especially if you go to some of the more obscure ones that a lot of people didn't get access to, like Prey, as an example.
Right.
I think they were talking about the Wolfenstein games. So fine, Wolfenstein's done really well, but how many people have played Wolfenstein Old Blood? That's probably going to be on Games Pass as well. Only question mark I have is it going to be... I mean, it's presumably going to be PC and Xbox Game Passes. Don't see why it wouldn't be. But yeah, it's
You'd
cool.
hope so.
Yeah.
So new games, of course, now that Bethesda comes under the Xbox umbrella, could be Xbox exclusives. Could be timed, so might come to other platforms as well. But that does kind of make it a bit interesting if you're on a PlayStation, you want to get hold of a new Bethesda game when it drops, and you can't get hold of it. But I guess we will have to see. But there is a statement from Xbox that they released a couple of days ago. Do you want to give you a little bit of the blurb?
Let's hear it, Alex Jones.
So they've said now that it has gone official, they've said it's an exciting day for Xbox because they've officially completed the acquisition of ZeniMax Media, parent company of Bethesda Softworks. It's an honor to welcome the 8 incredibly talented development studios: Bethesda Game Studios, id Software, ZeniMax Online Studios, Arcane, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog, and Roundhouse Studios. So it's a pretty big deal. Like I think, it's probably why it took the EU a little time to confirm it, but do you know what? I've got Game Pass, so for me, it's great. I'm like, this is great.
And that's kind of the whole reason for it, right? Is because if you want to play future Bethesda games, the best place to play them it's on Game Pass, baby.
With the exception of the next 2 Bethesda games that are still PlayStation 5 exclusives.
Yeah.
Which is just utterly bizarre, but that's
that's pre-existing contracts. Like you've got to honor those. You've got to honor that shit.
But that would have been scum if they'd have like undone those.
Can you imagine if they'd like reversed it? Like, hey, turns out Deathloop's an Xbox exclusive now. Whoops.
That would have been outrageous.
But yeah, I guess the question is like timed versus permanent, right?
Yeah, man.
It's got to be timed, surely. Would they really push for...
So when I was streaming Titanfall last, someone asked about it. And I said, from my point of view, it doesn't make any sense for it to be permanent exclusives. Makes 0 sense. If they make a timed exclusives, I would imagine all future Bethesda titles to be timed exclusives. If you say like 1 to 2 year time frame, because what's going to happen is if a game like, let's say Starfield, which is probably going to be the next big Bethesda game that's going to come out, right?
Yeah.
You say Starfield comes out, it looks fucking amazing. Everyone's kind of talking about it. It's being memed everywhere, much like Skyrim was when it dropped, and what have you. You get in your echo chamber on your social medias and you're seeing it happen, and you're like, damn, that looks cool. Damn, I want to play that. But I've only got a PlayStation. Okay, fine. I'll wait for it to get out of its timed exclusive so I can play it. And you play it, and you're like, okay, cool. I see what all the fuss is all about, or whatever. Like, this is a hypothetical scenario. The next time a hyped Bethesda game comes out, like let's say Elder Scrolls 6, you're going to think to yourself, I don't want to wait for that timed exclusive. I don't want to miss out on all of that. I'm going to hook up Games Pass. And by that time, Games Pass will be on, xCloud, your mobile phone, your tablets, your PC, whatever you want, probably even your smart TV. So all it is, the way I see it, is a trigger to get people on Games Pass, regardless of whatever platform you're on.
I'm confused to the argument you're making. You're suggesting that timed exclusives...
Yeah.
Like, why would a timed exclusive be better at pushing people to Game Pass than a full exclusive?
Because you're giving people the taste of that game, and then you saying, hey, you can have this game, like the next game that comes out, you can have it in 2 years' time, or you could just get it straight away with Games Pass. Because what Microsoft has done is they've lowered the barrier to entry on Games Pass so much that makes that's the easiest thing to do.
But I mean, you're saying that's the taste. Like, who needs to play? Let's say that the order. Let's take the 2 big ones, Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, and let's say they come out in that order.
Yeah, sure.
How many people are there out there that need to play Starfield a year after release to go, oh shit, I will get Game Pass for the Elder Scrolls 6?
I personally think you'd be surprised. I think you'd be
So
surprised.
we're not.
I
we're not saying.
don't know how many people out there need a taste of Bethesda games. Like these.
No, they don't need a taste of Bethesda games, but I think what it's going to do is it's going to say to people who thought that they could wait for the timed exclusive to realize that they don't want to wait.
I think I get what Chris means in some sense. Like if you tie a new Fallout game, I suppose it depends on what you play, but a new Doom game or something, any of these to a timed exclusive or a permanent exclusive, I think those titles can shift people from one console to another. Like I could see that happening. I find it, although I kind of disagree with the Game Pass angle, because they're not suggesting that any new Bethesda game is going to drop on Game Pass on release, right? They're just saying, oh, it will. They are saying that.
Well, yeah, because technically then Bethesda becomes first-party Microsoft content, and Microsoft has come out and saying that all first-party content drops day one on Game Pass.
Oh, wow. Okay. Because what I would have thought is if it wasn't on Game Pass for a while, then that would switch people over. Because at the moment, if I want to, and as you were saying, when you can play games across Game Pass on all devices and browsers and whatever, if anything, it's going to make you not switch to Xbox. It's just going to make you sign up to Game Pass for a month to play whatever game you want to play. That's a very good point.
And the second part of what I was saying on the stream was I'm pretty certain that Microsoft wants to get out of the hardware business.
Oh, right. So you're suggesting they're just going to go to a service.
Yeah,
so
I know Jamie's groaning, but yeah, that's very far down.
I don't think the company that wants to get out of the hardware business comes into the new generation releasing twice as many consoles as their nearest competitor.
So
one the most powerful, the other the least powerful. Like they're targeting the most hardware purchases they've ever targeted. I don't think.
Yeah, and they're selling the most that they've sold, but I still stand by it.
Realistically, as well, you're saying they want to get out of the hardware business in 7 to 8 years' time, right? Which would be
exactly
a generational length.
But
then this would be a weird time to pull the trigger on a Bethesda deal with game. I don't know, because it makes me think I don't need to switch to getting an Xbox to play any of these because I can just play them on Game Pass.
Yeah, but you don't, because they're not interested in selling you an Xbox. They're interested in you in getting Game Pass. Okay. Yeah, this has been said by fucking Phil Spencer. It's a fact.
Oh, they're saying that you're a lot more likely to buy a Game Pass login to play a new Bethesda game than you are to buy an Xbox. So actually, maybe it is really smart, and they'll get they'll get 10 million people say, do you know what? I'm going to sign up for Game Pass because I want to play Elder Scrolls 6. I want to play Starfield.
The only place I think I maybe disagree is that I don't think timed exclusive strategy gets more Game Pass signups. I think the full exclusive strategy does.
I don't think it matters personally, because I think if you want to play that game when it releases, you want to play it when it releases, and the permanent versus the time doesn't really affect it to me.
I think the Game Pass angle is like, surely the Game Pass angle is like, no, sorry, you will only ever play this game if you sign up to Game Pass. That's what gets people to sign up. Like, as soon as you give people an option to wait a year, they will wait a year. Trust me, I did it with Tomb Raider.
Okay. It's weird because I used to do it. I used to wait. I don't know if I could now. If I had the option, I'm so much more of like I need immediate gratification from games nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where like the timed exclusive, or maybe like not even exclusive arguments comes back in, which is just that like at some point in this process, right, Microsoft are going to figure out how many people will never sign up to Game Pass for whatever reason. And they'll probably also have the data and how many of them own a PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. And who knows, maybe they get to the Indiana Jones situation and they're like, hey, this is such a big property and such a big game that if we don't release a PlayStation 5 version of this, we leave millions and millions and millions of dollars on the table. Because the other thing about Microsoft owning Bethesda outright is even selling games on a PlayStation 5 makes them money, which is where I think timed exclusivity, or perhaps no exclusivity at all, does kind of come back into the question. But that's the cool thing for Microsoft, right? If people are signing up for Game Pass, you're making money. If you're selling games on a PlayStation, you're making money.
Yeah.
Like, they own massive games now.
They can flip-flop on their decision of timed or permanent, however much they want. Doesn't matter, because it's their fucking studios, right?
Yeah. There'll also be a sweet spot where they can say, if we hold the timed for 18 months, the timed exclusive, we will shift 75% of the PlayStation audience who have the ability to play it on Game Pass. But if we do it for 11 months, then we only shift 20%.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to do 14 months, and then we're going to test 15 months. And then they'll get the
and you know,
the best.
And the 4D chess version of that is like, you don't even put a date on it. Like, you might know that stuff internally,
Right.
but you don't tell anyone. You're just like, yeah, it's an Xbox. It's a Game Pass exclusive. Like, that's the only way you can play it. And then when the two lines on the graph cross, you're like, okay, it's been 16 months, whatever. People aren't signing up anymore because of this game. PlayStation 5 version on store shelves next week.
Yeah.
The thing for me that really and I know, and Jamie's going to groan at me, but the thing for me that really bangs with this and Game Pass in general and cloud gaming as a concept is the amount of people at the moment who have PlayStation 5s who would want to play a Bethesda exclusive that they're now not going to be able to, but who don't have the ability to play Game Pass on a PC, like a high-end PC.
Yeah.
Right. Is if you can get cloud gaming working properly and you only need a TV to play any of these games, suddenly Game Pass opens that door for millions upon millions of people who don't have to commit to buying, spending £1,500, £1,000 on a high-end PC in order to play.
Because Phil Spencer was even talking about potentially releasing a dongle, much like a Google TV or Amazon Fire Stick, where it's like, hey, that's an xCloud stick that you just plug into your HDMI, you connect it to your internet, and boom, you got Game Pass, xCloud streaming.
Makes so much sense.
Yeah,
he's talking about like you could have a smart TV and download the xCloud app onto your TV, and that's that done.
Yeah. No, that's not going to get a groan from me. That's exactly the kind of approach that cloud-based streaming services should be trying to go for at the moment. It's the gap in the market that Stadia failed to fill, right? It's that like, hey, saying sorry, like you're right, you don't have the $500 piece of hardware you need to play the Elder Scrolls 6, probably the biggest game of the year, whatever year it eventually comes out. But turns out you can just play it on your TV or in a browser on your laptop, and it will play and it will look and run the exact way you want it to because of X, Y, and Z. Like that's the only and hey, the only thing you need to sign up for is like, let's say Game Pass Ultimate has xCloud factored into it. 1 monthly fee. Then that's absolutely an approach that they should be aiming for, and maybe that's viable by the time the Elder Scrolls 6 comes out, because
if it ever
what are we talking
out,
about, like 2024, 2025? Like fucking
far away, dude. Think about it, if Starfield comes out this year, which it might, but you never know.
I wouldn't bet
let's say like,
I swear that every year Chris says Starfield might come out this year.
But the thing is, every year he's kind of right. It might.
He's closer to the truth.
Probably.
Every time I say I think it might come out this year, I'm not necessarily wrong, am I?
Yeah, because even if you're wrong, you're a year closer to the truth than you were the year before.
Yeah.
Look, guys, it's 50-50. Either comes out or it doesn't.
Exactly. But
It's so true.
From whenever Starfield comes out, you'd need to imagine that if Starfield is their big kind of push into a new RPG IP, that they're not going to the next year release an Elder Scrolls, right? So you're looking at like, I don't know, 4 years about in between Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, I'd imagine.
Surely, yeah.
I think Starfield will come out by the end of 2022, but you're right, like how far the Elder Scrolls is behind that, I don't know. I don't even want to think about it.
But
I'm still hopeful for Starfield this year, fellas. Still keeping my
well,
fingers
like you
crossed.
said, it is a possibility, so maybe it will happen. But hey, look, from one company making money moves to another one, rumored to be making some money moves in time for Christmas, and that is Nintendo, because there have been rumors that have come out this week that suggests that the Nintendo Switch Pro could be being manufactured as early as July. Actually, it would already be in manufacturing if this leak is anything to go by, and that the actual units will start being assembled from July in time for holiday 2021. So far, I think the confirmed details about the Pro are that it will have a 7-inch 720p OLED screen.
Hold on, Jonesy. Can we just confirmed, rumored?
Confirmed. This is a confirmed
nothing's been
rumor.
Confirmed. A rumored confirmation.
Yes. So
Allegedly.
I think. Allegedly. Let's go that, allegedly. So if you look into the leaks, effectively, it looks like it's somebody from Samsung, their screen manufacturing sort of area, that have said that they are manufacturing 1 million 7-inch 720p OLED units to be shipped to Nintendo for assembly by July. And that the idea is then to have them manufactured and for them to start to go on sale. We don't have much else apart from that. But some analysts from Bloomberg have also said that the output from the Switch Pro will be up to 4K when connected to a TV, which is, as someone with a Switch and who regularly plays it on their television, I think that is one thing that does make a big difference to how those Switch games plays, and that is the resolution. Because in handheld, it's pretty decent, but on TV, you definitely notice a degradation in games, let's say.
I got some takes on this, Jonesy, but I think I'll let you finish the bullet points.
I think I've covered off most of the stuff. But let's say, so the current Switch is 6.2 inches, so it's going to be going up, like we said, to 7.
Yeah.
But the light is smaller as well. So the light is only 5.5.
Yeah.
Although I've never played a light, so I couldn't tell you how much of a difference that 0.7 of an inch actually makes.
I would have played one if I had not been robbed by a certain game show.
But let's not get into that now. Yeah,
Wow.
If anyone doesn't know, I used to give away stuff on my channel, and Jamie nearly won a Switch Lite, and he's apparently still a little bit annoyed that he didn't.
I'll never forget it. I'll never forget it.
Wow.
There we
I'll
go.
never forget it. For as long as he dies, on his tombstone, he'll be like, "Screw you, Alex Jones. I'll never forget this."
Right. But so one of the sort of slightly ropier rumors that we've heard is that Nintendo will have some exclusives that will be on this system. And we were sort of discussing before the podcast that may mean you get games on the Pro that you cannot play on the Switch.
Which
is
they've
weird.
done before. It is weird, but they've done it before with the 3DS and the new 3DS. Now, to be fair to Nintendo, I think they utilized that extra headroom quite a lot between the two 3DS devices. And I think there were only like a handful of games that were like that you couldn't play on a bog standard 3DS. But it does suck, either which way you look at it.
It's in some sense you wouldn't want them to not make games that take full advantage of new capabilities in an upgraded system, but at the same time it would suck if they just said, oh, from now on we're telling third-party people that they can make games for this system and not the old system, because
it'll kill the old system. I guess the only thing it's not going for it wouldn't kill the old system, because the old system has like enormous install base, but still it's a bit sad to hear that. But can I give some of my takes, okay? Because
go for it. Yeah,
a bigger screen, 7-inch, sure, can entirely see it. An OLED screen, I can see it. 720p, I can believe it because it's Nintendo, and Nintendo are so behind in terms of specs. But you also
that is I love it, because that is one of the things that when I heard that I was like, well, that's rubbish. Why are they even? It's not even a pro thing, is it? But do you know what?
I would have liked to have seen a 1080p. Really,
would
I
have
would.
been nice.
But then again, like a lot of
on
people
an OLED, to be fair, 720 on an OLED.
OLED is quality, yeah. OLED
nice.
is quality. I would have liked to see a 1080p, but I think a lot of people are saying, hey, 720p at 7 inches, however far away from your face, is quote unquote what Apple terms retina, where you can't discern the pixels. So technically, why would you need to go higher? But I don't know.
Sure.
I can see the difference between a 720 panel and a 1080 panel on my cell phone. So
what about when I'm in bed and I'm playing it this far away from my face?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you
drop it on your head because you're playing it like that.
But it's more the 4K aspect to this that I really have a hard time believing. Really, really have a hard time believing.
It's something that I really want, but I agree with you.
Oh,
I have a hard time believing.
Totally. But like, you look at how powerful the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox One X are, Series X, in order to be able to push out that 4K at decent frame rates. And at least in terms of, for whatever God knows reason, the Series X doesn't hit that 60 FPS marker. Now, Nintendo Switch Pro doesn't need to go to 60 FPS. It can stay on 30 FPS. That's fine. That's probably what it would do. But it's just like, you think about the cooling that needs to happen for those next-gen systems to output to 4K. And now you're telling me that a handheld thing that's going to go into a little dock is going to push out 4K? I struggle to believe it.
The only way that I could see...
unless they use an entirely new different processor. So currently they're using the Tegra X1 chip, I believe. If they use a Tegra X2 chip that's been modified, then I can believe it. But I just, knowing what Nintendo is like, so the reason I can believe the 720p panel is because Nintendo are like, you got to keep the costs down. The main people are going to be buying this are parents for their children or the children themselves. So it needs to be accessible. It needs to be all of these different factors, which is the reason that the Switch currently is how it is. It's because it's that way of thinking. There's a reason that it launched with a 720p display back then. There's method behind Nintendo's madness, and if they're trying to save costs, I don't see them wanting to spend a lot more on a processor than they already are, unless they got some mad deal with Nvidia, because Nvidia does want to break into the space a lot more than they have.
Could you see them going for a system whereby they have extra processing power within the dock as a way to kind of get around that?
We've seen some patents in the past, whether they were true or not, to suggest as such.
Because it would be a way around maintaining the form factor and the size and stuff of the Switch, and dealing with heating, etc., without having to kind of go crazy with the handheld and then doing that. But
again, Jonesy, what? Look at the fucking size of the PS5. Are you going to have a PS5 size dock for your Switch? Like
epic, like big box.
Yeah,
slide.
Listen, Nintendo's engineers are fucking wizards, okay? But so are Sony's, and so is Microsoft's. So I'm sorry, I just don't see. I would love to be proven wrong. Honestly, I would love to be proven wrong.
I think there's a thing. I think the thing people have to think about Nintendo is you're never going to be able to play a game that is designed and runs on newest generational consoles. It's never going to go to Switch, even in this Pro factor, and run as well, even if it's outputting 4K. But I totally think that there are some games that it could do in 4K because they're going to be more simple. They're going to have a lot less, stuff going on screen. But yes, it's a definite kind of 4K thing is the question about how's that possible.
Okay,
if you're talking about third party. But
I guess the other thing that hasn't been kind of confirmed or spoken about that much is no talk of ray tracing. So to be fair, that does give back a lot of processing power that the current gen consoles are utilizing. And I don't believe, although I think some people have mentioned HDR, which again, that's another kind of processing headway that if they don't have HDR, it could go towards pushing out a 4K screen. But, what are the frame rates going to look like? I don't know. I'd like it to be true. But then, the Nintendo engineers are also probably looking at it from a perspective of how many people actually have 4K TVs. Right? I mean, how many people are going to benefit from this case? Just because all of us have 4K TVs doesn't mean that the majority of people that buy a Switch Pro would have 4K TVs.
I'd assume not. Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'd assume most people don't.
Yeah, I think 1080p is still more
spot,
common, right?
Totally, and that's why
that's
why all the gaming laptops, all the recommendations for them on the screen side of things is like 1080p is a bit aged, but you can't do a 4K thing because it's just not feasible with decent steady frame rates. So 1440p is the sweet spot. 1440p is kind of like the buzzword for this year in terms of gaming monitors. So you're telling me now a Switch Pro that's a handheld thing is going to be a 4K thing? I struggle to believe it.
The only maybe thing that I could offer up as an alternative is perhaps that that this isn't a hyperliteral suggestion that say the next 3D Mario game is going to run at native 4K, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned, for example, the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X and sort of their 4K capabilities. I think maybe the elephant in the room, as someone who's invested probably too much in home consoles over the last couple of decades, is that the PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X were also advertised as 4K systems back in, the fall of 2016. And I guess they were consoles that never really did that. They did checkerboarding, and they would release the odd indie game that looked like absolute dirt but could run at native 4K and stuff like that. Like there were workarounds. Maybe I don't think that Nintendo will ever use 4K as an advertising like marketing term. I just don't think they care about that battle.
Well, yeah, because they haven't got full HD as a marketing term, because they don't have full HD.
That's the more surprising thing for me,
And like and when they do use HD, they still think it means something in 2021. Like we just saw fucking Skyward Sword HD. What do you mean this Skyward Sword? You can't release a game in 2021 being like, by the way, it's high definition now. Hope everyone's got their high definition television sets.
Do you guys remember when the Wii came out? Okay, so obviously Xbox 360 and PS3 were HD, and the Wii came out, and you could buy an optional accessory, right? Which were component video cables to connect into the back of your Wii. And what was the output that they like touted as like a great thing about getting this optional component cables?
Go on.
460p.
Oh, brilliant!
Wow.
They were like, "Hey, you want 460?
You got it.
You got it.
You got it.
You got it, baby."
They are in some sense. It's like that they're from the
480.
past.
Sorry, 480.
It's like that they're from the past, and they're sort of and they're not even trying to keep up, which is quite endearing.
Yeah, but I think the fact that they're not even trying to keep up is like that adds weight to this idea that Nintendo will never come out, or like I don't think they're going to come out around this Switch Pro, whatever it's called, and say, "Hey, 4K this or that." I just don't think that's their game. No pun intended. And maybe this is just sort of like some strange thing about, hey, like the Switch Pro is capable of outputting up to 4K, and maybe we'll get like an 1800p Mario game at some point or something like that. I don't know. It's all a bit strange.
I think one thing to mention is because what I think a rumor also suggests that they're positioning this as a revision, as opposed to maybe an out and out like Pro, which kind of makes me think that maybe rather than being sort of like the comparing a PS4 Pro and a PS4 base model, the way that we should kind of think of it maybe more of like the PS was it the PS3 had a slim version which was effectively the same thing but was smaller form factor.
More power efficient. Yeah,
exactly. So maybe it's less of a Pro evolution and more of a a tweak on a thing. So I want to say it's 5 years now since the Switch was released. Is it 5 years? Is it that long?
4, I think.
4. Yeah. So it's about time that they did release something.
But then doesn't that contradict with the exclusivity claims?
It does. Yeah, it does. If
like how can you create exclusives for a thing that's technically not a new product? It's a revision on an old product.
No, but again, new 3DS. That's exactly what it was.
But then I think the moment, because they're all rumors, like I think we have to take all of them with a pinch of salt. I think the only thing I read, which was like seemed to be, people were taking as reality at this point, was the 720p OLED displays. I think that's the only thing. Everything else seemed a bit more speculative. So I think with regard to the exclusivity, is it a Pro? Is it a revision? I think all of those things are a little bit more.
It's the Super Switch.
The Super Switch.
It's the Super Switch.
Loads of people have been saying it's going to be called the Super Switch.
You know who should sponsor? They should sponsor if they want to get out there. The SuperShow.
Yeah, we'll switch our name to
Onlyfans.com/SuperShow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Careful if you go to that URL, it actually exists, and no, it's not.
And this is like the third week in a row you've mentioned that or something. I'm starting to get a bit concerned.
It's the second week in a row.
I think Jamie gets a slice if anyone goes and signs up to that.
It is actually Jamie's OnlyFans.
No comment.
So let's move on to our final story, which I know nothing about.
Me neither.
This is FIFA 21's EA Gate. Everyone loves adding gate to a word to make it seem controversial.
Well, you know what's going to be weird is when there's some fucking disaster that happens with a gate, and then it's going to be gate.
Gate, I love it. But so Jamie alluded to this earlier in the show when he was talking about EA employees selling cards. But yeah, Jamie, why don't you take it away and tell us a little bit more?
Take it away.
Okay, I'll
take it away.
I'll focus on like the non-FIFA side as much as possible to make this perhaps a slightly more engaging discussion for everyone. But essentially, for anyone that doesn't know, there's a very popular mode. In fact, the most popular mode within recent FIFA games, probably over the last decade or so now, has been a thing called Ultimate Team, which sees players collect cards, essentially virtual cards that assemble a team using cards. These cards represent the players. You then play the games against either the AI or against other players, and the cards are usually given out in the form of packs that are completely blind. They are loot boxes, essentially, where you pay money up front or you pay a currency that you can earn by playing the game to open packs. You get random cards and so on and so forth. And obviously, Over the years, some cards have become very desirable. They're at the stage now with the game where it's not just as simple as like, oh, you want Messi or you want Ronaldo. There are icon cards from like legendary players that are brought back. There are inform cards for players that are playing well. There are team of the season cards at the end, and so on and so forth. Any way that they can come up with to get you spending money, right?
Yeah.
But apparently now they've come up with a whole new way because the EA Gate thing, I believe, started on Twitter when someone started sharing what appeared to be WhatsApp messages with someone who was an employee of EA Sports who was agreeing to sell icon cards and packages of various other kinds of cards for money up front. Some of the packages...
Smart man.
I mean, maybe. There are conversations where you can see they're charging as much as 750 to 1,000 euros for certain cards. There's one conversation where 3 what are referred to as prime icon moment cards, 3 of them for 1,700 euros.
Hold on, what's a prime icon moment card? Is that like
now you're getting
the
into
time that Messi did the fucking hand? Not Messi.
Maradona.
Maradona.
Honestly,
yeah.
you're joking, but I think you might be right.
How do you use that in the game? Like,
Well,
it's just
you get the
Maradona
card,
going
you put-
around
you put-
punching balls.
Well, because it will be like, it will say like, so at first they just did icons, and then let's use
Yeah.
Maradona as an example. They're like, okay, we're putting Maradona in the game. Here's Maradona. He's 94 overall. And then what they do is they go like, actually,
I bet you're going to say he's 94 years old.
no,
running
94 overall refers
Jonesy,
to his.
he never got to 94. So
No, he didn't, did he? No,
he is in
sorry.
fact dead.
it would be
Rest in
it would be
peace to
cool
you,
though if you could get like a Maradona card where it's like coked up Maradona in his like 50s or whatever he was. And
That's an icon moment card.
I think that's kind of. I think that's kind of
where
what
he
they
was
do.
at the World Cup and he was like going,
I think that's kind of what they did, right? They basically said, hey, like, actually, it's not realistic to say Maradona was 94 overall throughout his entire career. There would have been a period where he was 92, a period where he was 94, and maybe a period where he had the tournament of his life or the game of his life and he was 96. And so, they do create cards that are like designed to replicate those kind of ideas. But there's further things here where he's selling 2 moment cards for 1,000 euros, 3 for 1,400 euros, 3 moments, and 2 team of the YS. I don't know what YS stands for. 1,700 euros. But basically, this has sort of shaken parts of the FIFA community and the Ultimate Team community to their core.
oh my god.
Surely this is such a limited number of people that can can afford this, B, have access to this guy who's selling these cards. Like, surely this is a tiny... in the great scheme of things,
but when
it's a tiny
when you're talking about these cards, you're also talking about a tiny, tiny number of them that are ever actually meant to exist. So then you've got weird things of like, okay, are these cards being pulled out of packs? Is this now like less availability for people who are paying real money up front for the random chance to get these cards because they're being pulled out of circulation to give to these players? And even if they're not being pulled out of circulation, if they're being added to circulation, then the inherent value of these cards, which is actually something that matters in Ultimate Team, also comes down.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people whose reaction to this has been, you're an idiot. Because the elephant in the room with FIFA, as opposed to, say, Dota, Fortnite, Warzone, is that FIFA has a time limit. Ultimate Team does not continue from one FIFA to another. When September rolls around again, all of these cards lose all their value unless you continue playing an old FIFA, which no one does.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that. So every year, when a new FIFA drops, everyone goes back to square one of who they've got on.
Everyone goes back to square one. Everyone gets the credit cards out, and everyone starts spending money here. Don't get me wrong.
So
FIFA
smart.
Ultimate Team is one of the nastiest, dirtiest places that you can dwell into. In fact, there was a story, we didn't pull it, but I think there's a story going around at the moment where I believe it's Germany are trying to get FIFA classified as an 18 rated game.
Right. I saw that. Yeah. Because they want to classify it as gambling.
Yeah. But now it's even weirder. Now it's like gambling where actually the dealer who's dealing you your hand in blackjack is also like specifically giving good hands to another player at the table for under the table payments, and you're like, well, is that affecting my hand? Are you taking aces and face cards like out of the deck that I'm being dealt, or are you adding them to the deck? In which case, it's a fucked up like
it is kind
all
of
kinds
weird,
of
man,
interesting conundrums.
What's weird about this as well is because whoever's done this or the people that are doing this inside of EA, you could have seen a number of years ago that it was like a fireable offense, right? Where you've done X, Y, and Z, you're going to get fired for it because you were giving away code or whatever that you were using. But now that you're talking about actual commodities, because these things are traded, they're sold, they have they have real world value, it's effectively massive theft. Because that person is stolen, so they're not just going to get fired. You'd imagine that they're going to go to prison for it. They're going to do some potential time.
The real world value element is harder to ascertain than it used to be. Because again, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds of this stuff, but essentially, while packs, for example, are bought by either coins or the currency that you can buy directly from EA, the players themselves, when they're put on the marketplace that is housed within FIFA, are bought and sold using coins. And coins are meant to be a currency that you can only get from either playing the game legitimately or by selling the players that you got through packs. So there used to be this idea that the way to assemble a good Ultimate Team is to spend real money, open packs, get good players, but not necessarily the ones you want, sell them for large amounts of money, and then use that money, those coins, to buy the players you actually want. Because assembling teams in Ultimate Team isn't just a question of assembling the best players, it's also a question of, for example, chemistry. Chemistry is an element that like connects different players in your team together and actually has a much bigger impact on your team than you might have originally thought. You don't want a team of superstars with zero chemistry. That's a nightmare. That was much more interesting when, admittedly, it was like unregulated and EA didn't do it themselves, but you could buy and sell coins on like a third-party websites. In which case, if you got the Maradona card from a pack, you could sell it for 1 million coins and then go on another website and sell your 1 million coins for real money. EA clamped down on that. You can't do that now. They basically outlawed that and closed all these sites.
But you can buy
like legit. What's the point?
These are basically people who just have the money to get guaranteed good players in their team and don't want to open packs.
But you can buy packs for real world money, right?
Yes.
So one of the things I'd think is like EA would have made a lot of money from those wealthy people spending real world money on buying those packs to potentially get good cards. And so these employees then have stopped that money going to EA. So I think it's still like a real world, real money theft angle to this, because you could potentially, like, how much would those guys have spent trying to get stuff they wanted in FIFA?
Could be.
If they're happy to spend $1,700, $2,000 to this person, then they would have been sinking tens of thousands of dollars into
Jonesy,
EA,
it would have been so unjust if they just put these cards at the back end of a battle pass. That would have been criminal. So they're letting people buy the things they want for the money they can afford to spend. I'm all for it. Get me a €1,700 DeLorean right now.
I agree.
No, I'm joking. So EA have acknowledged that this stuff is happening. They're looking into it. They say they don't condone it and they're going to take swift action. Again, remains to be seen to what extent this becomes like a person loses their job situation or something.
I love those statements though. It's like EA strongly condemns this. Like, of course you do.
Yeah,
you lost money.
Put out a press release saying, "Oh man, fucking Ben in accounting, he did such a good job scamming all these people."
Yeah, we'd like to apologise to our Ultimate Team players. We didn't realise you guys were this fucking stupid, and we're actually going to start doing this ourselves.
The statement is sorry.
Jesus. Next week there's going to be a real world marketplace for buying these players, and this is going to be the same value to which what this person was selling them for.
No, it's going to be like, we've promoted Ben from accounting because he had such a fucking smart idea, and there's going to be a company-wide rollout now across all of our titles.
Yeah. Madness.
Yeah.
I fucking love that. Oh, that's tickled me so much.
Well, hey guys, I think that about brings us to the end. And do you know what?
Wrap.
I think Chris might have just given us our code word for this week with that tickled me. If you want us to let us know that you made it to the end of the podcast.
Did this podcast tickle you?
Did it tickle you? Then let us know in the comments below the YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Jamie and Chris, for joining me and for adding all of your knowledge to this. Otherwise, it would have been me just reading a list of bullet points this week. Because
that's a stretch goal for one of our patrons things. So
I'd have listened regardless.
Oh, thanks, mate. And as Chris just mentioned, if you did want to join our Patreon, go over to patreon.com/supershow and you can join our Discord for as little as $2. And there's also some other content in there if you want to subscribe for a little bit more. But I think that then is everything. And we will see you next time. Bye.